Good afternoon, good morning. This is Mark Johnson from Loyalty 360. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. Wanted to introduce you to our Loyalty Expo, Virtual Loyalty Expo preview series. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Lonnie Mayne. He's the founder and CEO of Red Shoes Living. Lonnie, how are you today?
Doing fantastic. Yeah, sitting here in Park City, Utah. It's not snowing, but it looks like it's going to snow. So it's a weird time of the year right now.
Well, I'm envious. I would trade you the humidity for the snow today, but enjoy your day. Hopefully get a little snow, maybe get some skiing, which would be good.
There you go.
Can you give us a little overview, a brief overview for Red Shoes Living, your role at the company for those who may not be familiar with you and your organization?
Yeah, so I'm founder and CEO of Red Shoes Living, and it's a philosophy and a framework that is all about standing out for the positive in the work you do and the way you live your life. And we kind of bring those two things together. But the concept was designed to remind people. The red shoes part of it is a reminder to stand out. When you create an experience, or you create loyalty and an emotional connection with somebody in a meaningful way, meaningful meaning to them, then you're creating these red shoes experiences and they stand out like a pair of red shoes. So that was kind of the way we came at that. And then we apply this philosophy and framework to leadership, to the customer experience, to the culture that you have within an organization, and then again to the way you live your life, because Red Shoes Living is a higher standard of performance. And so therefore, how we live our life becomes really important, and how we take care of ourselves as leaders. It all kind of comes right back into Red Shoes Living. So today we work with leadership teams and executive teams on this concept and threading it into their businesses. And it's such a crazy time right now that we're busier than we've ever been doing that, because all of us are trying to figure out, what the new is going to be. And so it's a busy time.
Excellent. And one of the things that you've talked about recently in conversation I've had with you, this idea of red shoes rising. Can you talk about how that came to be and what that means in this environment, and also what that means to organizations who are trying to drive customer and brand loyalty?
Yeah, when we went through the pandemic, when it all happened, I think everybody remembers probably where they were the day that things shut down for them. And so the red shoes rising aspect, the calls we were receiving from leadership teams is, how do we lead through this time? How do we work with remote teams and in our home offices, et cetera? And so we talk about three things. There's all kinds of choices that we had during this time. We could do nothing. We could kind of just hum along, or we could really rise to a level of what we call red shoes that's even beyond where we were as we came into the pandemic. Right. So the three things we talk about using the pandemic as an example is we had to step into the pandemic. That's the first thing that we did. And in fact, the pandemic kind of stepped into us. We just didn't have a choice. But once we were in it, if you remember the first 2 weeks, everybody was trying to figure out, how do we do this, and Zoom video, and all of these things started to happen. So the second thing we did is we stepped through it. And this is the longest process. In the step through, all kinds of emotions happen. We have fear, we have anxiety, we have anger, we have frustration. We couldn't go out of our homes. We're trying to work. We've got changes happening within the business, cost-cutting measures that are happening in the business. So this step-through process becomes the most challenging, but it's also the area that we learn the most. As we go through that process and start to emerge back into a better place, we start to learn new things. There's opportunity. Fear might shift to the left, opportunity comes in front of us, and so we start to make changes, whether it's personal changes or professional changes. And eventually, as we go through the step-through process, we step up to a higher level of what we would call, red shoes living or red shoes rising. So we're seeing companies and leaders that literally are healthier. Their businesses have changed dramatically. Not that they haven't gone through their challenges, but they're sitting at a point now where they're looking back and they're thinking, wow, I'm probably better off that we did go through this as an individual, as a business, than if we wouldn't have gone through it at all. So it really becomes a mindset. So that's where we've spent most of our time, is helping people through this difficult time with a mindset that says, keep going, get through all the challenging times, step up, and then look back and see how different the world will look. And then we just keep coming at it. Step in, step through, and step up. So that's the red shoes rising piece of what we talk about.
That's awesome. Can you talk a little bit how both these topics, red shoes, the rising, and kind of red shoes living philosophies, will kind of fit into your virtual loyalty expo session on, I think, July 22nd?
Yeah, so we'll talk about both of these concepts. For those that have never heard about Red Shoes Living, we want to give enough so people connect with that. And then the Red Shoes Rising piece will really give some anecdotes and what other companies and leaders are doing and how far they've come during this time and what those improvements are, whether it's directly tied to loyalty or emotional connection, emotional loyalty. We'll talk a little bit about that. And really try to give a couple of little case studies along the way as well that I think will really open people's minds in terms of what the art of the possible is in getting through a difficult time and getting to a better place. And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some trends that we're seeing and what other leaders and companies are doing. So we're really looking forward to a fantastic session.
Excellent. So what are, you kind of talked about it a little bit, kind of some of the different ideas. What are some key takeaways that attendees can expect to learn during the session?
Yeah. So, one of the things that we've discovered is the world has changed, as we all know, but in a very positive way. We're having conversations with people now like we've never had before. So as a takeaway, we want to, share again what other leaders and companies are doing and how they've changed their businesses drastically to improve as a human being and to improve, within their businesses. So that'll be the big takeaway. And then the Red Shoes Rising piece of it, we want to be able to give that and present that in a way that it makes sense so people can actually apply it the minute they leave the events. And that's always the thing for us, is giving something of value in that session, the time that we have, where you can literally go back out and say, okay, I can personalize that to myself and how I show up in the world, and I can personalize it to my current roles and responsibilities within the company. So our goal will be to give that in a way that people can consume it and use it.
That's excellent. And who would benefit most from attending the session?
Everybody. And I say that because everything we do, even the book that we wrote that book that anybody could read it and understand it and apply it. So anybody that, has gone through this pandemic has gone through difficult times, gone through positive times. And so again, we want to share this in a way that wherever you are in the organization, whatever your role is, that you can take that and apply it to your specific roles and responsibilities. So we would say everybody.
That's awesome. Well, Lonnie, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us today. I'm looking forward to your session on July 21st. I got the date wrong earlier. It is July 21st, not the 22nd. So looking forward to that session as always. And thank you for everything you do for the industry. And it's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Excellent.